Alright, this is the halfway point, part 2, where I've been explaining, just going over the entire car, just give you an idea where I am with it. We've talked about the aprons, the engine, the heater box, fiberglass parts. One of the other things is the exhaust system on this car. Trying to keep it somewhat original to what the Shelby was. The first thing was on the engine itself. You could not fit the original cast iron 429 cast iron exhaust manifolds to it. They interfered with the steering box mostly. You just couldn't get it in there. On the passenger side, I believe they would have fit, but the driver's side was there's just no way you could get it in there. And two reasons no way you could get it in there. First of all, you couldn't put them on first and then drop it into the car, and you couldn't get them to fit from underneath, trying to get up underneath it because of the power steering box was one. And I think even on the passenger side you couldn't. I think there was a problem with that as well. So I had to go with headers, and the company I picked was I think they're called Ford Performance. They're out of Utah or somewhere, I believe. And the guy that makes them does an amazing job with them. He's made many of these exhaust systems for high performance cars and basically Mustangs. He's one only of a handful that make headers for these cars, or for, I shouldn't say these cars, the modification to take a 429 and put it in a 68 Mustang. So I got the headers from him. They were pretty pricey. They were almost $1,000, but they have the ball type end fitting. They're not flanged, they're the ball type, so it gives you flexibility as far as trying to get your H-pipe up to it and to fit it correctly. But being that he offered a ceramic coating, and I wasn't really sure how well his ceramic coating would work, so I investigated, and I went with the hot jet coatings. They're in North Carolina, and I saw a demonstration where they showed an infrared camera with and without, and with the infrared camera without, you could just see, there's just bright reds and oranges and yellows, and then you could see on the infrared camera with the hot jet, you could definitely see, it was blue. The exhaust system was blue, and there was some orange up by the where the exhaust manifold meets the head of the engine block. So I had those. I had the headers hot jet coated. I bought a big block, or for the big block 67, 68 exhaust system with the transverse mufflers and the resonators, and I think they're 2-inch or 2.5-inch pipes, and So I knew that would fit. The issue I had was the H pipe between the headers and the transverse exhaust system. And I bought the transverse exhaust system. I think it was through CJ Pony Parts. They were the ones that had the best price. I bought it when there was a sale on and free shipping, and you know that drill. So and actually I got them in a reasonable amount of time. It didn't, CJ Pony Parts, they're kind of notorious for not having good shipping, or they think they got the part in stock and they don't, and yada yada yada. And the other thing was that their customer service just sucks. You can't really talk to anybody there. So so I went with the transverse, and then I bought a standard big block H pipe for it, knowing that it would work back to the transverse exhaust system. And then I knew I was going to have to do some fancy cutting to interface it with the headers. So I had to come up, and so I had to make basically taking that H pipe, and I just basically used the pipe that was with it and the bends and stuff, and it worked pretty good. I actually was able to make it fairly stock looking H pipe, and I painted it, high temperature silver. And I still debate whether or not it should be, I should take it and have it sent to Jet Coat for to have them coat it. I haven't done that yet. The pipes and the exhaust system itself, I believe, is either aluminized or it's galvanized exhaust stuff. So I've done that. The tail tips are the dual tip Shelby KR, Shelby look tips on it. And then the fiberglass in the back from the trunk. The trunk. When I first did put the rear quarters on it, the trunk panels. I actually still had the original trunk for the car. It was not in very good condition, but at least the edges were good enough to where I could line up the rear quarters to it. So I used that to line up the rear quarter panels to the trunk lid, so I knew everything was square, even though I did not have the trunk lid I was going to use. I also had the original end caps, rear end caps to the car, which were original Ford parts, and I actually sold those on eBay. Here again, I didn't need them because I've got the Shelby fiberglass end caps, and so I think I sold those for like $120. So here again, that's almost like buying one, so I only had to buy one. So it's the trunk. The trunk lid, I wish I could have sold it, but it was in just such bad shape as rust in the front lip of it. So I couldn't really do anything with that. So the back of the car, I wanted to try to make as close to the Shelby back of the car as possible. I bought the Thunderbird, the 65 Thunderbird taillight bodies, and I've done it before, and I bought the original Shelby taillight panel. I don't remember where I got that from, whether it was from National Parts Depot or if it was from Tony Branda. But here again, it was one of these challenges trying to get it during the COVID thing, because it's just anytime I could find a part, I would buy it immediately because I didn't know if I was ever going to find it. So it was kind of you had to do it when you had to do it. So I bought the rear tail panel, poor copy of it. It's got the exposed fiberglass in the back. It's not a vacuum molded part. It's a cheap ass part. and the taillights didn't even fit in it to speak of. I mean, they didn't fit. There was so much in the molding of that part. There was just so many things. It looks like they took the part out too soon, and it was cured. It shrunk, or I don't know what happened to it. So I had to do a lot of manipulation to the rear tail panel for the Shelby, or for the Thunderbird lights to go in the back of it. And then on the back side of the tail panel, there's supposed to be little ear tabs where you can mount it back to the original Thunderbird mounting points on the tail lights. And it's like they weren't even finished. So I had to go in and cast in enough material to make the ears to where you could actually put screws in the back of it to hold tail lights in. So I did that. On the end caps were another challenge because, one, I tried to buy them through Tony Branda. He didn't have them at the time, and that was about a year and a half ago, or almost 2 years ago, because I started buying parts, trying to find parts and buying, if I could find them. I bought them once I had the car, because I knew I was going to need them. It's just a matter of, it was a cost that, unfortunately, that I didn't really want to spend, because it's just parts I didn't need for probably a year or more. So anyway, I found the California pony parts and ordered those. I got the driver's side part, rear end cap. I got it fairly quickly, and the other one is on back order. And I think it's still on back order. I don't know if I've ever even canceled that order. So that one fit fairly well. I didn't have to do hardly any modification to it to make it fit correctly. On the other side, I found an end cap from, I think it was National Parts Depot. So I bought a part from them. It turns out that part was for a fastback, even though they claimed that a fastback and a convertible part for those Shelby end caps are the same. They are not. The convertible one is different. And so I sent that back because I didn't want to screw it up. I thought about modifying it, but I told myself, no, just send it back. And so this car sat without the passenger side end cap for a long time. And then about, I don't know, 6 months ago, Tony Branda called me up and said that they got the end caps in, and did I want them? So I said, yeah. So they sent me, so I bought the pair. I bought the one for the driver's side, and then I bought the one for the passenger side. Well, I tried to put the one on the driver's side, and it was it would not fit. It's nowhere close to fitting. And the same thing was true for the passenger side. It was not even close. But I was kind of in between a rock and a hard spot, because this is the only one I had gotten. And so I modified it to look like the other side, to make it look like it had it. And I had to do, I don't know, I had to build up it was concaved in the back too much, so I had to fill it in the back so it wasn't so concaved. The ear between the Thunderbird taillight panel, or the Shelby taillight panel, and the end cap, it's supposed to be a piece that goes back and kind of hides the back of the side scoop, or the tail panel and end cap, and it wasn't there, so I had to create that. I had to do a lot of molding and shaping to make it look like it was the correct part, and it didn't fit the quarter panel virtually at all. It was actually too high in the back, and that, I'm not going to say it worked to my favor, but because the trunk lid doesn't fit very well, both the hood and the trunk lid, they're bowed, and they claim that that's part of the Shelby thing. Well, the only way that to be a Shelby thing, Shelby's hoods have a tendency, or trunks have a tendency to bow over time. So if you're molding it from an existing Shelby that's 20, 30 years old, it's already going to have that bow built into it. So that's the problem, is that a lot of these things are pre-bowed, and now that you've built a fiberglass part, is it going to bow more? That's the question, is what's it going to look like in 20 years? So, I mean, I actually looked for original Shelby parts, and I was willing to, within reason, pay the price for that, but, the hood for just an aftermarket Shelby is over $1,000 before shipping. So I struggled with that. I did find that the Shelby, the Thunderbird T-Light buckets, I found both. I found 2 of those. They were in okay condition. I had to replace the light sockets believe it or not, I replaced the light sockets with the light sockets from the Thunderbird that I had. I replaced a lot. I had a lot of parts from the Thunderbird, and I still got some. Got a lot of interior parts. I sold the speedometer bezel out of the Thunderbird. I sold some of the. I sold the interior compartment, console compartment. I sold that. Sold a lot of miscellaneous parts, like the sequential marker taillight thing. I sold that. I sold a lot of other engine components that I wasn't going to use. So I'm still selling stuff, trying to make some money doing that. So I got the tail panel to fit pretty well, and I started out Shelby, on the back of their tail panel of the car, to accept the T-Bird lights. They drilled holes, round holes, to allow access for the light sockets to go through the rear tail panel of the car. There's 2 holes for the inboard and then the middle light, and then the outboard light. They actually cut one of the legs off of the tail light area. There's 3 channels, as you know. There's 3 separate channels for the original car lights, and then the second channel, the prong, or the framing rod that goes in between it, that's cut out. So I cut that out, and then I made there's these special caps that actually go to cover up the holes, so that you don't get exhaust fumes and you don't get water in the back of your trunk. So I made those end caps. The problem is I made them too small and I made them too low. So it was a lot of work to make those things. I bought half spheres, 2-inch or 2.5-inch half spheres out of cast. They were cast iron or cast steel, whatever, forged steel. Well, they didn't fit. They didn't work right. So I basically have to discard those and then start over. So in starting over, what I decided to do, since I had the holes, I decided to open the holes up and then buy new half spheres. And I bought some half sphere. I think it's a 3-inch thing, and it fits over for a handrail, some sort of handrail half sphere, and it's made out of 302 stainless steel polish. And so instead of remaking the brackets and inserting them like they should be with a Shelby, because what they are, they're concave to fit the body part, and then they're stamped out of aluminum, and then they're caulked and screwed into place to prevent gases to come through the back panel. Well, I decided to take those half spheres and weld them to the back tail panel, which I did, and it was a struggle because of having to fight the old hold area. I had to build up the area because where it was cut too low, so I had to fill that in. I thought about buying a new tail panel and totally starting all over, but I didn't. And so I've got the two spheres on either side. I think they're 3.5, or they're a millimeter size, so I don't know if I think they're 100 millimeters. So those are in place. They do clear the taillight panel now. The outside one where I told you I had to cut that slot on it for the opening, I made a special, because the wire that goes through there, and I explained this in one of my videos, that the wires that go through there, they didn't even have grommets on it in the Shelby cars, it looks like. They just had these wires going through this piece of this sheet metal. So I made a hole that was properly sized to a grommet, so I have this round grommet now that at least lines the steel panel that goes through it, so that at least you're not cutting your wire harness up. So that was a challenge, and that kept me from working on the car for a while, because I was just totally disgusted with doing that. I was so disappointed. I thought I had it made. I had those covers made. They fit well. Everything was right, and then they wouldn't fit. So that's been done. The tail panel fits correctly. I still got to go back, and there's these little half moon raised points. I guess, I don't know if it's for the trunk stop or what they're for. They're molded into the fiberglass panel, and those are half moons, and some way it was casted, they're not even half. They look like they didn't even fill, or they're not right. So I got to go in and build the ones that aren't fit correctly or molded correctly, and then build those up to match so they look like the rest of them. The quarter pan, the end cap on the passenger side, it stood up so much that I had to fill in. I actually used a metal a metal filler and filled the back of the rear quarter panel, raised it up so it mimics better the end cap, and also looks better for the huge gap between the rear quarters and the trunk lid. I did find a light assembly for the trunk lid that I still need to mount. That's just the courtesy light for the trunk. It's got that little magnetic switch in it. I bought one of those, and then I think I found one in the parts I got. So I might put the better one, or whatever, when it works or doesn't work, I might put that back on eBay. So I got that. Talking about the hood of the car, it's because it's a KR car. It's got the ram air induction, and in the ram air induction, it's got a piece that fits under the hood that actually is kind of a chamber. They call it the ram air chamber, and it's a chamber so that it takes the air from the hood openings and then drives that air into the air cleaner of the car. with it. It's got a rubber seal that goes around it. Well, I bought the piece from Tony Branda because they're the only. I think they're the only ones that offer that part. It was a mess. It was a real mess. The main portion of it worked fine, but the back part of it that actually made it butts up to the back side of the hood was so wavy. It wasn't flat at all. It was like it had two big waves in it. So I bought some 1/8" fiberglass. I think this is it's 1/8" fiberglass. I bought some 1/8" fiberglass panels. Then I cut the panel out that was on the ram air cover or hood adapter piece, and then I fiberglassed it back on and reformed the. There's two half moon shapes, which are, I guess, to give it support. They're hollow, but it gives it support to the back of the hood so that the back of the chamber has some mechanical support. So I mimicked that. I built them all up with with fiberglass and got them all sanded down. It looked really nice. Put it in there, and then the front of the hood, the mounting pieces on the fiberglass, it's all one piece. They were like at 90 degrees and they needed to be at 45 degrees. So I had to slit those so that they were flimsy enough to bend because they're fiberglass. You can't, because if it's steel, you can just bend them. But fiberglass, so I had to slit it with a zip saw on both sides and bend those down and then re-fiberglass them to sit down where they're supposed to lay against the ram air part of the front. So I've done that. Now it fits really well. Right now I've just got it screwed. Originally Shelby had like, I think they were 1/4 inch or 3/8 rivets, and there was 2 rivets in the back and then 4 rivets in the front to hold the cowling or the ram induction in place. So that's been completed. Also bought the Shelby tire or rims. That was a challenge. Tony Branda, who originally had a manufacturer cast them and machine them for him especially, they're saying that they're probably out of business. The guy, Tony Branda, unfortunately Tony's gone. Tony's been gone since 2008. But the guys at Tony Branda say that they believe they haven't had any contact with the manufacturer that made the rims. So I was on the hunt for the cast iron or for the aluminum Shelby designed rims. I think they're originally Kelly, or I forget what the manufacturer was originally. So I found something that looked really close, and they were from Vintage Tire or Vintage Air, or what's the name of that? They were named, it's Vintage Wheel Works. I found a set of those from that Classic Industries had, and I'm glad I got them, because Vintage Works is no longer in business, and the set of rims I got were the last ones that they had, and they looked really close. I believe now Legendary, I think Scott, I think Legendary makes some sort of Legend wheel, looks kind of like it. But so I got those, and then I've put 225, 60, 15 rims or tires on them. BF Goodrich, radial ATs. So I got that, and I haven't even tried putting them on there yet. I need to find the lug nuts, which are the long extension, they're diamond point lug nuts. And I've found some, it's just a matter of buying them. I think they're like $5 a piece, but when you need 20 of them, you need, it's $100. And so I haven't really pulled the trigger on that yet. There's so many parts that I really need, like I need the chrome ring, headlight rings that go on this. That's a kind of a rare Shelby part. I think Tony Brandis sells them, so I gotta hook up with him. Then I gotta work on the sequential lighting before I button up the dash panel. I need there's two relays for the emergency flashers, as well as the turning indicators. Got company again. Who is he? What's up? So that's that. It's got Coney shocks in it. I found a good deal on those. Here again, it was about a year ago. Through, I think I got those through Holly. And they had some sale going on where it was 20% off, and so I got both front and rear shocks. They fit fine. I tried to put a sway bar on it, and unfortunately I had the sway bar mounted, the original Ford style sway bar, and when I went to put the exhaust system on, the transverse muffler would interfere with the roll bar, so I can't have the 3/4 inch roll bar, or not roll bar, sway bar on the car. So right now that's on a local Craigslist thing, trying to get rid of it. I did finally get the roll bar, or the style bar, for the car. Tony Branda they finally got some in about, I don't know, 7 months ago. So I got that. Early on this project, I found an original Shelby console that came out of a car that a guy, some millionaire, it was on a Craigslist ad, and so it was an original console, black, automatic, which is perfect for what I needed, and it was $700. And I mean, it was just out of the blue that I found this thing. And because I search other states and stuff for parts and stuff just on Craigslist. You just go in there to a local area and then you hop on and see what's out there. And so I got that, and it's got the original gauges in it and everything, but the oil pressure gauge is set up for mechanical, and I didn't really want mechanical, so I bought a electrical oil pressure gauge for it, but it's still the green, vintage green Stewart Warner gauge, so it looks really close to the ammeter gauge. The car is set up with it. It's got the terminal block for the ammeter for amp gauge. I put electronic ignition in it, so now it's got the I forget what they call that. It's just, it's a little rotary on the points. I put a better spark. I put a better the performance coil in it that matches that electronic ignition. So I have better reliability with that. The roll bar, so really it's all I'm left to get is I have to, I also have, instead of getting the seats that came with this car were really weird. They were like for a Cougar or something. They weren't the original seats for the car. So other than the back rear seat was correct, fortunately, because convertibles have a shorter back seat or narrower. And so I bought a set of 69 Mustang seats that had the headrest, because I think in this day and age it's probably a good idea to have headrests in case you get hit in the back. So I've got to reupholster those. I still got to buy the door cards. I've bought the lower grills for the doors for the deluxe that holds the speaker and the courtesy light. I have the courtesy lights, but I drilled out for both the courtesy light and the speakers are available. And I got the wiring harnesses for the speakers. So the doors are pretty much set. I drilled for the special door pulls, got the door pull brackets. So there's nothing special there about the Shelby, and so the door pulls, the deluxe door pulls, and they now make that. They make the deluxe armrests. Fortunately so, because when I was building cars back in the early, 2000, you couldn't get the door pulls. You had to, I had to buy them on eBay and pay an exorbitant price because they were very rare. All I sold back then was a decal that fit into the end caps of the door pulls. So I got that. Got the export brace. Windshield wipers. I still got to get the. I found a pair of the 65 T-Bird taillight lenses. Somebody was selling those on eBay. A pair for $40, brand new, and I mean they go for like, I don't know, $100. I still got to get the taillight doors. I still got to get the front marker, side marker lights. I got the front marker lights because those have to be painted. A lot of new wiring harnesses in the front of the car. I got the wiring harnesses for the speaker and courtesy lights to go to the door. I was thinking about putting opera lights in the back convertible.